Hi, Force Kids! It's Mr. Artiaga, and I'm here with another recorded music lesson. Today, you're going to be doing your second album evaluation, and I will be handling this one by myself. I'm not going to bring in any other music teachers, but I do have two albums that I'm going to focus for you, and just like last time, you can pick any album you want to listen to. You can either do one of the two that I'm going to provide links for and talk about in this video, or you can pick your own album. The only thing is you have to make sure that the album that you evaluate in the Google form is appropriate for school. So make sure that whatever you do, it's appropriate for school. The two that I'm going to do today are definitely appropriate. Today's lesson is your album evaluation number 2, and it's appropriate for students in 2nd through 5th grade. Our objective is that students will be able to select an album, listen to it, and describe their personal preference for music in writing. We have a little more vocabulary today than we did in our last album evaluation because I want to really make sure you understand some of these different ideas because these are really important for understanding albums. So the first one is artist. And the artist is the musician or the band or sometimes the composer who makes the music. So really, who is playing the music that you're listening to? Then there's the composer, which is the person who writes the music. And an album is a group of recordings, usually by the same artist, released as a CD, vinyl record, or digitally. I really want you to remember that an album is a group of recordings. Say that. An album is a group of recordings. Next, a track is an individual song, sometimes on an album, sometimes not. And there were a few kids who turned in album evaluations that were actually tracks. And I really want you listening to a whole album or a whole group of songs, usually by the same artist. Finally, a genre is a category or style of music. Pieces of music in the same genre will have many things in common. And why it matters is listening to music can be a great way to spend time with our families. Having music playing is a great way to lighten the mood in these challenging times. And in the era of digital music, streaming radio, students should understand that musical artists often put their work onto albums. The first album I'm talking about today is by the artist The Mamas and the Papas. That's the name of the artist or the band in this case. There they are. The album is called If You Can Believe Your Eyes and Ears. My favorite track or song on this album is California Dreamin'. This album came out in the year 1966. And the genre is folk rock, which is a poetic genre of rock that often includes singing. And this genre first became popular in the 1960s. And I chose this because I like the songs. They come across as happy, easygoing, and upbeat. And California Dreamin' and Monday Monday are considered classic songs. California Dreamin' and Monday Monday are two tracks or songs that are on this album. Now, the next album that I'm going to share with you is by the artist Miles Davis. The name of the album is Sketches of Spain. My favorite track on this album is Concierto de Aranjuez. And it was released in 1960. The genre of this album is modal jazz, and that's jazz music that is modal or composed in an unusual scale. And modal music will evoke moods that can be unusual to our ears. I chose this because I've been to Spain, but before I went there, I listened to this album. And I think this album evokes a beautiful country and culture. And when I listen to this album, I feel like I am far away. Now I want to show you a little bit more about albums, artists, and tracks. So if you look here, you can see that it says, "If You Can Believe Your Eyes and Ears." That's the album's title. And then the artist is the Mamas and the Papas. And sometimes people get that confused. I even get that confused sometimes when I'm looking at albums. So it helps if you know who the artist you're listening to is first, or if you have a specific album you're looking for, then you can find that. But there's always going to be an album title and an artist. Now, the track is the name of the songs on the album, and they all have names too. And on the back here, we can see that the tracks are listed. I'm trying to do this backwards. See? And you can see here is the track California Dreamin', that's on side 2. And here is Monday, Monday, and that's the first track. And this is kind of hard to see, but usually the tracks will be listed somewhere on an album if you have one. And if they're listed online, they'll be listed in the YouTube or in the iTunes or wherever you're listening to it. Then, here's this one, my favorite one. And this is Miles, and it just says Miles because I think they just assume that we know it's Miles Davis. And then it says Sketches of Spain. And then this actually, on the back, we can see there at the top, it says Side 1, Concerto de Aranjuez, which is my favorite one. And then there's other tracks as well. Will-O-the-Wisp, The Panpiper, Saeta, and Solea. So that's the album, the artist, who has lots of albums, and the tracks, which are the names of the individual songs. Now I'm going to tell you just a little bit more about the album Sketches of Spain by the artist Miles Davis. Now Miles Davis is the artist, and he was a trumpet player. And you can see in the picture, that's a black and white picture of Miles Davis playing his trumpet. Miles Davis was a famous jazz trumpet player. He recorded many famous jazz albums and was a pioneer in many different styles of jazz. He died in 1991 of pneumonia. And then Sketches of Spain is about the country of Spain, which is a country in Europe. And Spain is a country in Europe where the language of Spanish comes from. Spain has many beautiful cities. Spain is famous for its jamón, which is a food they often serve. And there are many wonderful pieces of artwork in Spain. A really great place. And listening to this album is one of the things that made me want to go to Spain. So just like last week, your assignment now is to listen to an album and then to evaluate what you think of that album, just like you did last week. You can either do If You Can Believe Your Eyes and Ears by the Mamas and the Papas, Sketches of Spain by Miles Davis, or you can choose something else. Now, if you choose something else, make sure that you choose something that is appropriate for school. Because if you're going to turn this in as an assignment, you're turning it in for school. So if you choose, and what does that mean? That means don't choose something with a bunch of swearing and with a bunch of cuss words and a bunch of bad language in it, really. So just be careful about that. Now, just like last week, you can listen to this assignment while you're doing something else. If you want to listen to it with your family, I think that's a great idea. In my house, we spend a lot of time listening to albums, and it's a really nice way to pass the time, especially when we're tired of watching TV and playing video games. So you can do that, and have a great day, and it's really good to give you this next lesson.